I did not wake up on a beach. I woke up inside the broken ribs of a plane that was supposed to be in the air on a straight flight to San Juan. Metal groaned around me. My ears rang like somebody had hit a bell inside my skull. Salt burned my throat and nose. For a few seconds, my brain tried to tell me this was turbulence, a rough landing, some bad dream I would laugh about on the group chat later. Then I felt heat on my face. Fire. I forced my eyes open. The cabin was torn open like a can. Seats were twisted. Overhead bins hung open and broken. One side of the fuselage was ripped away, showing flashes of blue ocean and gray sky between thick smoke. I tried to sit up. Pain shot through my shoulder so sharp my vision went white. "Do not move." A woman's voice cut through the roar and the ringing. Not soft, not panicked, sharp. Commanding. I turned my head. She was crouched in the aisle a few feet away, hair plastered to her face with sweat, white blouse torn at the sleeve, dirt streaked across her cheek like war paint. Ara Vance, CEO of Vance Tech. My boss. Seeing her there, in that wreck, was like seeing your face in a mirror during an earthquake. The whole rich, polished world we lived in at the office snapped into this one brutal moment. "I am getting you out," she said. It was not a pep talk. It was not a speech. It was an order. She ripped a strip of cloth from her own sleeve and wrapped it tight around my shoulder. Her hands were quick and efficient, but close up I could see the faint tremor in her fingers. "On 3, she said, leaning in. 1, 2... She yanked before 3. Pain exploded in my shoulder. I bit down on a scream and tasted blood. "Good," she said, breathing hard. "You're still useful." If the world was not on fire, I would have laughed. Behind her, flames crawled along the ceiling panels, licking at plastic and foam. The air was getting thicker, hotter, harder to pull into my lungs. I dragged myself forward, using the broken seats for leverage. Ara kicked debris out of the aisle with her boot, clearing a path without looking back to see if I followed. She moved like she was sure I would. That trust, fast and unfair, kept me going. At the torn side of the plane, sunlight poured in. The ocean was right there, slamming into jagged metal, throwing spray into the air. Waves hit the wreck hard enough to make the whole structure groan. Ara looked down at the water, then at the ragged edge of metal, then at me. "Can you swim?" she asked. "Yes," I said. My brain was still in office mode. I added, "Yes, ma'am." She gave me a look that could cut glass. "Do not call me that." Behind us, something in the cabin exploded. Heat slammed into my back. The ceiling flexed. We did not have time to argue. "Move," she said. We jumped. The water was a slap. Cold, violent, all at once. It stole my breath in one hit. Salt flooded my nose and mouth. My shoulder screamed. I kicked anyway, using my good arm and my legs to stay above the surface. Ara swam like she was angry at the ocean. Strong strokes. No panic, no flailing, just work. She aimed for a strip of pale sand ahead, a curve of beach backed by thick green trees. We made it to shore and collapsed on the wet sand. I rolled onto my back, coughing seawater, lungs burning. For a while, all I could hear was the smash of waves and our ragged breathing. Far out on the water, a dull boom rolled across the surface. I looked up in time to see the last of the plane sink, fire, and metal vanishing under a skin of white foam. Smoke smeared the sky in a dark line. Ara pushed herself up on shaking arms. She stared at the spot where the plane had been. Her jaw flexed. She wiped salt and ash from her eyes with the back of her hand and then said, like she was opening a meeting, "We need inventory. We need shelter. We need water. We assume no one is coming for at least 72 hours. Her voice did not shake. Her body did. That was the first time I saw the crack between who she really was and the woman she forced herself to be. "You okay?" I asked. She looked down at her hands like she had forgotten she had them. Then she curled them into fists once. "I am fine," she said. It was not true. It was functional. I sat up slow, fighting the fire in my shoulder. "First thing, we move away from the wreck." I nodded toward the ocean. "If fuel washes in, this beach goes up." Ara nodded at once. No argument, no pride, just decision. Lead, she said. Just like that, the CEO of a billion-dollar company took orders from her junior logistics guy. The island did not care about titles. We walked up toward a line of palm trees and dropped under their shade. I scanned the sand. No other bodies, no other survivors, no shouting, no movement, just us and the sea. We are the only ones, I said quietly. Ara did not answer. She stood and walked back toward the water, like she could force someone else to appear by sheer will. I watched her stop at the edge of the surf and stare at the empty horizon. Her shoulders rose and fell once. Then she bent down, scooped up a handful of wet sand, and let it fall through her fingers. It was not dramatic. It was the only thing she could do with her hands that was not breaking something. I pushed myself up and limped toward her. "Ara," I said. "Do not," she said. Her eye stayed on the water. "Do not say it." I did not say it. Instead, I pointed back at the tree line. "We need shade. We need water that does not taste like the ocean. We need anything useful from the wreck before the tide takes it all." Her head turned, her eyes locked onto mine. For 1 second I saw the woman under the armor, raw, furious, scared. Then she blinked, and the CEO mask slid back into place. "Fine," she said. "We work." So we worked. We scavenged along the shore until our hands were scraped. I found a torn emergency kit half buried in the sand. Most of it was ruined, but a few things had survived. A small flare gun, 2 soggy protein bars, a sealed packet of water purification tablets that might as well have been gold. Ara waded into the shallows and hauled out a half-stuck suitcase, like she was moving furniture, not luggage. Inside were a soaked blazer, a broken laptop, a cracked phone, and one stupid, bright lipstick. She stared at the lipstick for a second, then snapped it shut and tossed it aside. "No distractions," she said. "I found a piece of foam seat cushion and a strip of aluminum from the fuselage. If I angled the metal right, it caught the sun." "Signal mirror," I muttered. "You know how to use that?" she asked. "Boy Scouts," I said. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. The wind shifted and brought the smell of smoke again. Ara turned and looked at the deep green belly of the island. "We need shelter," she said. "Not out in the open." "Storms, heat, animals," I said. "Higher ground if we can find it." Her gaze swept the tree line like she was reading a report. "Then we go," she said. We went. We found a shallow limestone cave about 50 yards inland. Not big, but dry, and the air inside was cooler. The sound of the ocean dropped to a low, steady rumble. I dropped our salvage near the entrance and slid down with my back against the rock. "Good enough," I said. Ara scanned every corner of the cave like she expected it to betray her. Then she surprised me. She sat down across from me, knees drawn up, back straight. "Plan," she said. So we planned, like we were in a conference room and not a hole in a rock. Fire, water, food, signal. I broke down tasks. She took half without flinching. "I will handle shelter and inventory," she said. "You are going to handle the shelter?" I asked. She looked at me like I had questioned gravity. "Yes." Then she stood, grabbed a fallen palm frond from the entrance, and dragged it back toward the cave. No complaint, no hesitation, competence. I pushed myself up and went to find water, the pain in my shoulder following, and the weight of something new sitting heavy in my chest. I was stranded on an island with my boss. And for the first time since I started working for her, I was seeing who she really was when the world stopped watching. I did not find a miracle spring. I found a trickle. The island looked green from the beach, but inside it was thick and tangled. Roots grabbed at my ankles, branches slapped my face, my shoulder burned with every step. I followed a shallow dip in the ground until I heard it, a soft drip, like someone tapping a finger on glass. I pushed through a wall of leaves and saw water running down a rock face. Not a river, not even a stream, Just a thin line of clear water sliding over stone. It was not much, but it was not salt. I dropped to my knees and held my hands under it, letting it pool in my palms. I cupped it to my mouth. It tasted cold and sharp, like stone and air. Footsteps crunched behind me. Ara knelt beside me, eyes on the trickle. "We need to collect it," she said. "I know," I said. "We just do not have containers." She looked around once, then stood and walked back into the trees without a word. For a second I thought she was leaving me there. 10 minutes later she came back carrying a broken piece of plastic, probably from a seat back, and a strip of torn fabric. She folded the cloth, threaded it through the plastic, and tied it in place. In a few quick motions, she made a crude funnel and filter. She held it up between us like a prototype. "Better," she said. I stared at her. "You made that in 10 minutes. She shrugged a little. "I run a company," she said. "I can make a funnel." She pressed the cloth tight and held the plastic against the rock. Water slid into it, then down into a cracked bottle we had dragged from the shore. We took turns carrying water back to the cave and anything that would hold it. Half coconut shells. The broken bottle. A bent food tray. It was clumsy, and we spilled a lot, but some of it made it into our little stash. By the time the sun started to drop, my legs shook from walking, and my shoulder felt like it was made of hot wire. Ara moved slower too, but she did not say she was tired. She just kept working. Night came fast. Daylight drained out of the trees, and the island turned into a silhouette. The sound of the ocean got louder when we could not see the waves anymore. I made a small fire near the cave mouth, using dry palm husk and strips of torn seat cushion. I sparked it with the striker from the flare gun. It took a few tries. When the first flame caught, small and hungry, my chest loosened for the first time since the crash. Ara sat just inside the cave, knees pulled up, arms wrapped around them. The light from the fire danced across her face, showing every line of exhaustion. "You okay?" I asked again. She watched the flames for a long second. "No," she said. "Just one word. Honest." It felt heavier than a whole speech. I did not answer with some fake positive line. Instead, I dug into the emergency kit and pulled out one of the soggy protein bars. It looked pathetic and felt like wet cardboard in my hand. I held it out to her. She stared at it like it offended her. Her stomach chose that moment to make a quiet, miserable sound. Her eyes flicked to mine, annoyed. I kept my face steady and my hand out, not smiling, not joking. After a beat, she took the bar. She bit into it, jaw tight. The texture made her grimace. "Calories," she said, chewing. "Calories." I agreed. We ate in silence. The bar tasted like damp chalk, but it filled the empty space in my stomach just enough to remind me I was alive. The fire popped softly. Outside, the ocean kept hitting the shore. Inside, the shadows moved across the walls. Ara stared into the flames like she was trying to decode them. Even sitting still, she looked like she was working. I realized then that she did not know how to rest. Not really. She only knew how to move, plan, decide. Here, the island did not care about her titles. It was going to teach her something new, whether she liked it or not, and I was going to be right next to her when it did. Day 2 started with heat. The sun turned the sand into a hot plate by mid-morning. We dragged our fire pit closer to the cave and kept it small under the shade. I woke up to find Ara already awake and sorting our supplies. She had lined up the coconuts in a neat row. The tablets sat in 2 small piles. Our containers were grouped by size. It looked like she was getting ready to give a presentation. "You did all this now?" I asked, rubbing sleep from my eyes. "You were out," she said. "We needed to know what we have." "You did not sleep," I said. "I slept," she lied. Her eyes were red. "Okay," I said. "Today we need better shelter and a signal. Something a plane can see." Ara nodded. "We need to be visible from the air." Quote, "We cut palm fronds and branches and made a crude lean-to over the cave entrance to block wind and rain." Ara hauled branches like she had done it her whole life. Her blouse, once sharp and white, was now streaked with dirt and ash. The fabric clung to her shoulders in the heat. Buttons were missing. She did not care. She just moved. She wiped sweat off her forehead with the back of her hand and left a smear of ash there. "If anyone at the office saw me now, they would die of shock," she muttered. I looked at her, at the dirt and the torn sleeves and the focused eyes, and felt something twist in my chest. "They would probably offer you a raise," I said. "You are finally hands-on." Her mouth flickered into a quick, real smile before she picked up another palm frond. On the beach, we dragged driftwood and dark rocks into huge letters. SOS. It felt stupid and small against the big empty sky, but it was something. When we finished, we stood back and looked at it. The letters were crooked. The scale was all wrong, but the sun hit the wet wood, and for a second, it flashed. "It will do," Ara said. We took turns watching the horizon. No planes, no boats, just blue and more blue. By afternoon, the hunger came back hard. The protein bars were gone. Coconut water only went so far. "We need food," Ara said. "I know," I said. "Fish, crabs, anything we can get without dying for it." She stared at the water like it was a problem she could solve with a slide deck. Then she set her jaw. "I will learn," she said. I found a long, straight branch and showed her how to sharpen one end on a rock. I held it over the fire to harden the tip. Ara watched every move, then took the stick and did it herself. Her hands were quick and firm. When she was done, she weighed the spear in her hands and nodded once. "Okay." We waded into the shallows at low tide. Small fish flickered in the clear water, trapped in pools between rocks. She missed her first 5 tries. Each miss tightened her mouth. Her hair stuck to her cheeks. Sweat and seawater ran down her neck. On the 6th try, she lunged too far, lost her footing, and went down on her knees with a splash. Water soaked her from the waist down. The spear hit the sand with a dull thunk. For a second she froze. Then she slammed the spear into the bottom again, stood up, and marched out of the pool like she was about to fire the ocean itself. On the dry sand, she grabbed her cracked satellite phone, the dead one we had dragged from the suitcase, and pressed the power button again. The screen stayed black. Of course it did. Her grip tightened around the phone. Then, she threw it into the sand hard enough that it bounced and rolled. She stood there breathing fast, hands shaking, staring at nothing. I walked up and bent to pick the phone up. I brushed the sand off and set it carefully on a rock out of the way. Then, I held the spear out to her again. "Again," I said. She looked at me like she wanted to tear me in half. Then, something in her face changed. She took the spear and walked back into the water. By sunset, she caught a fish. It was small and thin, but it was alive and in her hand. Flipping weakly, she held it up, water dripping from her arm, hair wild around her face. "I did it," she said, breathless. "You did," I said. For the first time since the crash, pride shone through the fear in her eyes. She looked at the fish like it was proof she still mattered. Then she looked at me. "Thank you," she said, softer. I took the fish, cleaned it with a sharp piece of shell, and cooked it over the fire. I gave her the first bite. She took it without arguing. That night, the sky went dark in a way city skies never do. No glow from distant buildings, just stars and black and the sound of waves. We sat near the fire. Its light turned the cave walls warm gold. Outside, the trees were just shapes. "You are sure we will get out of here?" she said suddenly. It was not a question. It was a test. "Yes," I said, "I am sure." "You do not know that," she said. "You do not know we will not," I said. She was quiet for a long moment. The fire snapped and popped. Her face was turned toward the flames, but her eyes were far away. Then she said, "I keep thinking about the office." "Why?" I asked. "Because it is the only place I know the rules," she said. I thought about the island. Here the rules were simple. Hunger, heat, cold, pain. No contracts, no board, just reality. "You learn fast," I said. She let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "You sound like you are evaluating me," she said. "I am," I said. She looked over at me through the firelight. "And?" she asked. "You are improving," I said. Her mouth twitched. "High praise," she said. "From me, yes," I said. She shook her head and leaned back against the rock. Her shoulders were not as tight now. The fire warmed her face. The shadows made her look softer, younger, more human. For a second, I forgot she was my boss. I only saw the woman sitting across from me in a cave on an island, fighting not to fall apart. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Clouds rolled in fast over the ocean, thick and heavy. Wind rushed through the trees, making the leaves hiss. Ara looked toward the cave entrance. The air changed. The first drops of rain hit the sand like small taps. "We are not done yet," she said. She was right. The storm was coming. And so was whatever this was between us. The storm did not start with rain. It started with the wind. By late afternoon, the air felt thick, like the island was holding its breath. The sky turned a strange gray-green over the water. Palm leaves hissed and twisted. The temperature dropped fast enough to raise goosebumps on my arms. "We need to reinforce the shelter," I said. Ara was already on her feet. "Tell me what to do." We dragged more palm fronds to the cave. I tied them tighter over the lean-to, layering them so the rain would roll off instead of straight through. Ara held branches steady while I worked the knots. Her hair whipped across her face, sand stuck to her legs. She did not complain once. A gust hit hard enough to rock us both. One side of the lean-to ripped loose with a ripping crack. Ara grabbed the loose branch with both hands and dug her heels into the sand. The wind yanked at the fronds like it wanted to take her with them. For a second, her body pitched forward. I dropped the rope and lunged, wrapping an arm around her waist and pulling her back toward the cave mouth. We stumbled together, feet sliding. The branch tore away and flew into the dark. Ara's fingers gripped my forearm, nails digging into skin. I held on until we were under the rock overhang again. "Inside," I said over the growing roar. "We have enough up." She nodded once, breathing hard, and backed into the cave. The rain hit like someone dumped an ocean on top of us. 1 second the world was wind and noise. The next it was moving water. Sheets of it. It blasted the beach flat and bounced off the palm fronds in waves. The cave stayed dry near the back, but the mist pushed in. The air turned cold and wet. Our fire went out in a single angry hiss. Darkness rushed in. Thunder cracked so loud the stone under us vibrated. The sound rolled over us, heavy and endless. Ara sat with her back to the wall, knees pulled up, arms wrapped around them. Her hair hung loose now, dark and heavy. In the flashes of lightning, I saw her eyes wide and bright. I sat down beside her, leaving a few inches between our shoulders. "You okay?" I asked. She looked at the cave mouth, at the sheets of rain. Her jaw was tight. "No," she said. Her voice did not have the hard edge this time. It was bare. I did not try to fix it with words. I could not stop the storm. I could only be there. Another thunderclap hit. Ara flinched. Not big, just a quick jerk of her body. Then she forced herself still again. Her breath came shallow. I moved a little closer, closing the inches between us. I did not touch her. I just sat so our shoulders brushed, a steady line of warmth. After a minute, she shifted. Her hand slid down, searching. Her fingers found my forearm and curled once, tight. She did not look at me. She did not ask. It was a simple, silent question. I turned my palm and covered her hand with mine. My grip was steady, not crushing. I felt her fingers tremble, then press back. Her breath changed. It slowed. She leaned her head against the rock and let her eyes close. We stayed like that while the storm raged. Wind screamed over the cave. Rain hammered the island. Inside, there was only dark stone, wet air, and our joined hands. By morning, the worst had passed. The world outside looked scrubbed raw. The sky was a pale, washed blue. The sand was full of new debris. Our SOS sign was half gone, letters broken and scattered. We stepped out onto the wet beach. My legs felt heavy. Ara stood beside me, her clothes damp, hair pushed back with both hands. She stared at the destroyed sign. For 1 second, her shoulders sagged. Then she set her jaw. "Rebuild," she said. I looked at her. You do not quit, I said. Her eyes flicked to mine. Neither do you. We rebuilt the letters again, dragging wood and rocks into place. Our muscles burned. Our hands hurt. We did it anyway. Days blurred into a rough rhythm after that. We collected water from the trickle. We checked our containers. We searched for more coconuts. We took turns watching the sky. We fixed the shelter when the wind tore at it. We lit the fire when we had dry fuel, and let it die when we did not. Ara's hands hardened. The blisters on her palms turned to calluses. She moved with more ease in the sand now. She waded into the shallows without hesitation, spear held loose and ready. She missed less often. She cursed less when she did. We were still hungry. We were still one bad day away from real trouble, but the panic eased into something else, a low, steady urgency. The first real danger that was not weather came at the waterline. We were in the shallows, ankle deep, spears in hand. The sun was high. The water was clear enough to see the sand patterns. Small fish darted between our legs. Ara moved beside me, focused. She had become quick. Her shoulders relaxed, her weight balanced. She was getting good at this. Then the water around my calves went cold. Not a big change. Just a sudden strip of chill running through the warm tide. Every instinct I had went tight. Back, I said quietly. Ara froze. What? I reached back without looking and wrapped my fingers around her wrist. I pulled her behind me, step by slow step, keeping my eyes on the deeper blue ahead. A shape slid past. Gray, smooth, and too big to be a fish. A small reef shark, but still a predator. It moved with lazy power, tail sweeping, cutting slow arcs. Ara's breath hitched. I felt it at my back. Do not splash, I said. Slow. Just walk. We moved backward together, my body between her and the deeper water. The shark circled once, then turned and faded into darker blue. We kept moving until our heels hit dry sand. Ara stared at the ocean, chest rising and falling too fast. Then she looked at me. Her pupils were blown wide. You knew, she said. I felt it, I said. She swallowed. Her gaze dropped to where my hand still circled her wrist. Sand clung to her skin where my fingers had been. Slowly, she lifted her free hand and touched the mark my grip had left. Then, my forearm. Not a caress. A check. A grounding. Thank you, she said. Her voice was rough. I nodded once. You would have done the same. She held my eyes for a second longer, then looked away, back at the ocean. That night she could not settle. She shifted in the cave. She checked the fire, even when it did not need checking. She moved our supplies 2 inches to the left. I sat at the entrance, watching the dark line where the waves hit the sand. The sky was a huge bowl of stars. The air was cooler. After a while, I heard her footsteps. She came to sit beside me, cross-legged, close enough that our knees almost touched. For a long time, we did not speak. The fire behind us gave off a soft glow. The tide rolled in and out. If we die here, she said suddenly. I did not look at her. Do not, I said. Do not go there. Just listen, she said. I stayed quiet. Her voice was lower than I had ever heard it. If we die here, the company still runs, she said. The board meets, the market moves, people post tributes on LinkedIn, and then go back to work. Her hands were resting on her knees. I saw her fingers curl, then flatten. I keep thinking I spent my whole life building something, she said. Power, influence, control, and none of it matters to this island. It matters, I said. To the people you have, to the people you pay, to the people who stayed alive because of decisions you made. Not here, she said. She was right. Here, the only things that mattered were food, water, shelter, and what kind of person you were, when none of those things were guaranteed. I turned my head and looked at her. In the starlight, her face was softer. The hard lines from the office were gone. Her eyes looked tired and clear. You are different here, I said. So are you, she replied. We held each other's gaze for a moment. No titles, no floor numbers. Just 2 people sitting at the edge of the world. She looked away first, back at the black water. Her next words came out like they had been stuck in her throat for days. If no one comes, she said. She paused, swallowed. If no one comes, Cade, will you stay with me? Her hand reached blindly and caught my shirt. Her fingers knotted in the fabric. Not like a boss holding a worker, like a person holding on to the one solid thing in reach. My heart slammed once, hard. The ocean roared. The fire crackled. Her question hung between us, heavy and bright. I knew that whatever I said next was not just about the island. It was about everything. She did not look at me when she asked. She stared at the dark ocean like it was going to answer for me. If no one comes, Cade, will you stay with me? Quote. Her hand fisted in my shirt. I could feel the tremble in her fingers. Not big, just there. My throat felt tight. I could have said a joke. I could have said something light. Instead, I said the only thing that felt true. I am here, I said. My voice came out low. I am right here. I am not going anywhere. She swallowed. Her grip on my shirt eased, then shifted. Her hand slid down to my forearm and wrapped around it, holding on. She did not say thank you. She did not say anything. She leaned forward and rested her forehead against my shoulder. Her body was tense for 1 second. Then she let out a long, slow breath, like she had been holding it for days. In that moment, the island was not just a trap or a test. It became a choice. We were choosing to stand here together, even if no one ever came. The next days were rough. Hunger dug in. The small fish were harder to find. Coconuts did not last forever. My shoulder ached all the time. Ara's face thinned a little. We moved slower. One afternoon, we climbed the rocky ridge again to look for any sign of help. The climb hurt. The stone burned under our hands. The sun hit the back of my neck so hard I felt dizzy. At the top, the view was wide and cruel, endless blue in every direction. No ships, no planes, just water. Ara stood at the edge of the ridge. Wind pulled at her hair and the loose edges of her torn blouse. For one moment, her eyes looked empty, like someone had taken all the color out of them. Then she set her jaw. "We keep going," she said. She did not say if or maybe. She used the same tone she used in meetings when she shut a debate down. It was not hope, it was will. We climbed back down. That night, I watched her sleep. Her head was tilted against the cave wall. Her mouth was relaxed. One arm was curled over her stomach. She looked younger, almost gentle, nothing like the sharp force who ran our company. Something tight in my chest woke up. It scared me, because I knew this was not just survival instinct. It was not just a crush on a boss. It was deeper. It was real. And if we got off this island, the world would try to crush it. Day 10 brought another storm, worse than the first. The sky turned dark in the middle of the day. Wind screamed through the palm trees. The air smelled heavy and electric. We raced to reinforce the shelter, tying palm fronds tighter, stacking rocks at the base to hold them down. My hands slipped on wet leaves. Ara's hair whipped across her face. We both cursed out loud for the first time. A huge gust slammed into the island. A palm branch snapped and crashed near the cave mouth, sending sand and debris flying. We both ducked. The lean-to shuddered. "We have to get inside," I shouted. Ara grabbed the outer frame, trying to brace it. The wind yanked at her, pulling her forward. I grabbed her around the waist again, this time with both arms, and dragged her back into the cave as the branch ripped free and crashed where she had been standing. We fell against the rock in a heap. Her hands clutched at my forearms. "I am fine," she said fast. Her voice shook. "You are alive," I said. "That is more important." The rain hit hard, like a wall of water. Half our shelter tore loose and slapped against the stone. Cold spray burst into the cave. Our small fire died with a sharp hiss. We spent the night in the half-dark, bodies pressed close as we pushed debris away from the entrance and tried to keep the worst of the wind out. At some point, I cut my shin. I did not notice until later when I saw the blood. By dawn, the storm was done. The island looked wrecked. Our SOS sign was broken again. The beach was littered with branches and seaweed and trash from the wreck. The sky was a sick, bruised color. I stood in the wet sand and stared at the ruined sign. I felt empty, tired in my bones. Ara walked up beside me. Her hair was wild. Dirt streaked her face. She looked at the broken letters, then at the water. For a second her shoulders sagged. She looked like she might fall. Then she straightened. "Rebuild," she said. I stared at her. "You never quit," I said. Her eyes met mine. There was something new there now. Not just respect. Not just trust. "Neither do you," she said quietly. We rebuilt again. Because that was what we did. That night, after a small meal of fish and coconut, we sat by the new fire. The flames danced on the cave walls. The air smelled like smoke and salt. Ara watched me. Not with quick glances this time, she just looked at me, steady. "Cade," she said. I looked up. "Yeah?" She held my eyes in a way that made the rest of the cave fade. "If we get out of here," she started, then stopped. Her throat moved. "When we get out of here," she corrected herself. My chest warmed at that small word change. "When we get out of here," she said again, "we will be back in my world. Offices, board, rules, power. I do not know what that means for this." She lifted one hand, fingers trembling just a little, and rested it against my jaw. Her thumb brushed my cheekbone. "You can tell me no," she said. Her voice was rough and honest. "I will not fire you. I will not punish you. You can say this was just survival." My heart pounded so loud I could hear it. I could have stepped back. I could have saved us both a lot of trouble. I stepped closer instead. That was my answer. Ara let out a breath like she had been underwater and kissed me. It was not neat or careful. It was heat and need and weeks of holding everything in. Salt from dried seawater, smoke from the fire, all of it wrapped up in that first contact. My hand found her waist, fingers pressing into the thin fabric at the small of her back. I did not pull her in hard. I held her steady and waited for her to choose. She chose. She moved closer on her own, fingers twisting in my shirt, pulling me in. The fire cracked beside us, but the only thing I could feel was her mouth and the way her body fit against mine. When we finally came up for air, our foreheads rested together, both of us breathing hard. "When we get out," she whispered, "we deal with it then." "When we get out," I said, "not if." Her mouth trembled. Then she nodded once. "Okay." She kissed me again, slower this time, less storm, more promise. After that, the island changed. Nothing got easier. We were still hungry. We were still tired. But the space between us felt different, less hollow. When her fingers brushed mine as we passed a shell or a container, it woke something in me. When I tied a new bandage around her scraped knee, her gaze dropped to my hands and stayed there. We did not talk about us. We did not have to. We lived it every step. Day 12. It happened. I was standing on the beach, squinting at the line where ocean met sky. The SOS sign looked strong for once. The air was clear. The sun was bright. Behind me, Ara was weaving palm leaves into a thicker panel for the roof. Her blouse was more dirt than white now. Her hair was tied back with a strip of fabric. She had made a rough hat out of palm strips to block the sun. It sat crooked on her head. She looked nothing like the woman who had stood in glass offices in heels. She looked real. I turned to call out some joke about her hat. Then I saw it. A white shape on the horizon. At first I thought it was another cloud. Then it moved different. Clean. Steady. A boat. "Ara," I said, but my voice came out thin. She was already standing, hands at her sides, eyes fixed on the same point. As it got closer, the letters on the side became clear. U.S. Coast Guard. Relief hit me so hard my knees almost gave out. Right behind it came something else. Fear. Because rescue meant her world would come back. The cutter stopped offshore. An inflatable boat dropped into the water and sped toward us. Men and women in uniforms stood ready. "Miss Vance!" one of them shouted as they got close. "Ara Vance?" Ara straightened. Her posture changed. Her spine went long. Her chin lifted. The CEO came back like a suit she had put on again. "Yes," she called. "We need medical and a secure line to New York." They hit the sand fast. Medics rushed in. One of them pressed a hand to my chest, checking my breathing. my shoulder, my leg. "Sir, come with me," he said. Behind him, a man in a dark suit stepped out of the boat. Another followed. Phones were out. Cameras pointed. Somebody said her name again. "Ms. Vance." Ara's eyes found mine over the rush of bodies. For a second, the world narrowed. Her. Me. The island that had held us. Her hand caught mine and squeezed once. Hard. I squeezed back. 2 beats. Then they pulled us apart. They loaded us into different sections of the boat. Her voice carried over the engine noise, sharp and controlled. By the time we stepped onto the deck of the cutter, the island was already shrinking behind us. Waves erased our footprints. We had survived together. I was not sure if we would survive apart. 3 weeks later, New York felt like another planet. Traffic noise never stopped. Glass towers scraped the clouds. People moved fast with coffee cups and phones, wrapped in their own worlds. I sat on the floor of my small apartment, scraping old paint off a baseboard with a putty knife. It was stupid, small work. But it was work I could finish. My friend Leo came in with a bag of groceries. He took one look at me and shook his head. "HR called," he said. "They want you back. Desk, raise, hero story." I kept scraping. I said no. "Because her name is on the door," he asked. "Because mine will always be under it," I said. My hand slipped. The knife cut my thumb. Blood welled up. I stared at it, not really seeing it. Leo grabbed a paper towel and wrapped my thumb without a big fuss. That was his way. No speeches. Acts of service. He turned on the TV to fill the silence. On screen, Ara stood behind a podium with news logos on it. Cameras flashed. The banner read, "Vance Tech CEO speaks on fraud allegations." Marcus, our slick CFO, stood behind her, half a step to the side. Leo reached for the remote. "You want me to turn it off?" "Leave it," I said. The sound came on. "There were lapses in oversight," Marcus was saying. Ara cut him off. "There was fraud," she said, "by Mr. Marcus Thorne." She lifted a folder and a tablet. "These are the approvals he forged," she said. "This is where the money went." Marcus started to protest. Security stepped in. They took him by the arm and walked him off. Cameras followed. He tried to turn back. Ara did not look at him. "Effective today," she said, "Marcus Thorne is removed from his position and reported to federal authorities." She paused, looking straight into the main camera. "And, for the record," she said, voice steady, "Cade Mercer made the calls that kept us alive on that island. He will not be used as a scapegoat for anyone's crimes." Leo muted the TV. "She just protected you in front of the whole market," he said. Before I could answer, someone knocked on my door. 3 firm knocks. Leo raised his eyebrows. "You expecting anybody?" "No," I said. I opened the door. Ara stood there. No podium, no cameras, no suit. Just jeans, boots, a simple dark coat. Her hair was pulled back. There were faint scars on her hands that I recognized. She held a paper bag in one hand and a thick envelope in the other. "I brought food," she said. Her voice was softer than at the podium. "And a question." Leo lifted his hands. "That is my cue," he said. He slipped past her and out the door. It clicked shut behind him. Ara stepped inside. The apartment suddenly felt too small. She held out the envelope first. "Not a job offer," she said. "A partnership." I frowned. "What?" "Field division," she said. "Rescue, logistics, survival training, remote operations. You run it. Your name on it. Equity, not salary. If you never want to walk into my tower again, you do not have to." My heart pounded. "And us?" I asked. Her eyes met mine. No cameras. No board. Just her. "Us is not a benefit package," she said. "Us is what we choose, if you still want me now that the world is loud again." I stepped closer until I could feel her breath on my face. My hand slid to her waist. I did not pull her in hard. I waited, her fingers curled around my wrist. "Do not stop," she said, so I did not. I leaned in and kissed her. Firm, chosen, safe. When we broke apart, I stayed close, forehead against hers. "I can handle storms," I said. "I cannot handle losing you." "Then do not," she whispered. I looked down at the envelope in my hand, then back at her. "Partners," I said. She nodded once. "Partners." I turned the deadbolt on my door. The soft click sounded a lot like a promise. Then I pulled her into the small, warm space that somehow felt bigger with her in it. We had survived the island. Now we were going to build something else. Together.